Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. Blizzard's data scientist tweeted this list over the weekend, and this is a list of the best mercenaries according to Blizzard internal data. So this is a list of the best mercenaries, top 5% MMR, all maxed mercenaries, no versus AI games included, and this includes the mercenaries in order, their equipment, the best equipment to use on them, and the ability tiers, so best on the left. So the leftmost ability of these three abilities is supposedly the best ability for that mercenary. When I see charts like this, I immediately start to think, okay, how reliable is the data, and does the data really show us what we think it is showing us? And I think this particular table is a lot of fun to look at and a lot of fun to deep dive into and see a little bit on what does it actually consist of. Well, first of all, it's telling us that Cookie the Cook is the best mercenary in the game with appetizers, and Cookie with appetizers has been very strong. No doubt about that. And also Fish Feast, Cookie's first ability. You bring Cookie, Fish Feast is used to kill something immediately. Yeah, all makes sense so far. Then there's a little weirder inclusion. Jaina Broadmoor at number 2. Okay, I can see that Frost has been doing pretty well. Then again, now we also need to start thinking about, okay, how often is the mercenary used and in what kind of variety of teams, because like Cookie, you can use Cookie in a lot of teams. So Cookie being at the top is pretty phenomenal actually, because Cookie is used in a ton of teams and some of those might not be very good. Whereas Jaina Broadmoor typically used only in specific Frost comps, so there are not a whole lot of different comps Jaina is being used in. So Frost comp is good, but is Frost comp like better than Holy based on this? We don't really know, because there can be many different types of Holy comps and there's a lower variety of Frost comps, so it just might be that the comps that Jaina is using are good, and some of the Holy comps, for example, could be better than that one, but other worse Holy comps are dragging the overall win rate of Holy comps down below this Jaina level. Like also, we're not seeing Warden Dawngrasp in this list, because Warden Dawngrasp is also used in other comps than that Frost comp, just an example. And also looking at the ability tiers, Water Elemental is Jaina's best ability, but Water Elemental is not an ability that Jaina uses a whole lot, and when you're up against casters, Water Elemental doesn't really do much immediately either. It gets AoE down and it just doesn't stop much. But there are some occasions where it can stop, like Samuro for example, whereas the more common Jaina abilities are according to this worse. But here we have to keep in mind that the more common Jaina ability is Ice Flows. Ice Flows is used by Jaina in every single game where Jaina is being used, and you're using something else when you get a specific kind of situation. Perhaps Water Elemental, for example, is used in very favorable matchups for the first comp. Perhaps Water Elemental is only used when you're really far ahead. Just because Water Elemental is listed as the best ability of Jaina here doesn't mean that it's actually the best ability. You really need to see a lot more in-depth data to make that sort of determinations, whereas these sorts of tables require a ton of interpretation to try to figure out their true meaning, if we even can get there. Then we have King Mukla in 3rd place, Mukla's big brother, Primal Power, Dinner Time, Banana Frenzy. Again, Banana Frenzy, the ability that you have to use on turn 1 if you open Mukla, is the weakest. It's used in every Mukla game, whereas Mukla has to survive in order to be able to use Primal Power or Dinner Time. Then at number 4 we have Gruul, and we already kind of know that Gruul is not played that much. You see some Gruuls when you're playing, but you don't see Gruul nearly all the time, so the sample size for Gruul has got to be a little bit lower. Maybe the Gruul comps have been able to hit a successful meta. Dragon Skull, the fire resistance equipment on Gruul, yeah, anti-Diablo tech. And when it comes to Gruul, then Dragon Slayer Shot being the best ability, because Dragon Slayer Shot is not particularly great, there's no dragons in the meta. I tend to read into this that other Gruul abilities are actually really bad, and Dragon Slayer Shot is like the only decent one of them. But that might be reading a bit too much into the table. Then we have Sylvanas Windrunner, okay, Death Folly, basic stuff, Diablo, Black Soulstone, the best Diablo ability being Apocalypse instead of Firestomp. Well, how is that possible? Well, typically when you bring in your Diablo, you want to bring Diablo to Firestomp. And you get to use Apocalypse if your Diablo Firestomps and survives to use Apocalypse next turn. So when we start to add knowledge about how games progress into the data on this table, we can see that, okay, yeah, I guess Apocalypse on Diablo is going to be pretty powerful, because that means that Diablo has already survived the Firestomp turn and is ready to rock even more. Then we have Vol'jin with Ring of Haste, Shadow Surge, Curse of Weakness, nothing special there. Prophet Velen, Potion of Light, Splitting Light, Balance Blessing, Anduin, Ring of Purity, yeah, makes perfect sense. Malfurion Stormwind, well, Life-Root Staff is a given, but here's another interesting one, the Archdruid's Call as best Malfurion ability. And I have been playing with Malfurion quite a lot recently, and I actually really like Archdruid's Call. But Archdruid's Call here being the best ability, it's the least used ability on Malfurion. You're always going to Scenario and Search at the start of the game. Then you're probably going to use Dangling Roots, often already on turn 2. Well, it depends, but if there's something that's going to try to attack, you need to stop it. Roots is great for that. And Archdruid's Call is one of those abilities that really makes a difference when used at the exact right moment. It can be the call or it can be the blessing. Either the AoE or maybe more typically the healing portion of that. Just a right moment, just specific timed heal, and boom, opponent's calculations go off and it can be phenomenal. But it's not needed in nearly every game. And you don't even get to a position where you can cast it in nearly every game, because often you're in positions where it's too slow. If you try to cast it, Malfurion is already dead before it goes off. So it kind of makes sense that Archdruid's Call could be like this. But also this might be useful data, in the sense that, okay, Archdruid's Call is an ability that you should keep in mind when playing with Malfurion. Another really interesting piece of data here is Natalie Selene with the Eye of Shadow instead of Splinter of Nordrassil. And yet, Anathema, Benediction being some of the strongest abilities. I would wager to guess that most Natalie Selenes are running a Splinter of Nordrassil though, so they can do that Anathema Benediction spam if needed. And are those the best abilities if you're equipped with Eye of Shadow, because then that Shadow Beam, sniping stuff with Shadow Beam, I'm actually really intrigued about that. Maybe that's going to be a new Natalie Selene meta. Even though we need to interpret this data a lot, there are these nuggets of information that you can take and okay, hey, maybe I need to keep in mind that Archdruid's Call when I'm playing Malfurion. Maybe I need to consider whether Eye of Shadow and the sniping stuff with Shadow Beam could give me something when playing Natalie Selene. Then we have Rexxar, and really showcases how strong Kill Command really is in a Beast comp. Kill Command being like the best ability, despite also being the only ability that you can use in the opening, so you're always going to play Kill Command when you play Rexxar, and you really want to play that Kill Command, and it's just very strong. Then another funny line with the Cairn Bloodhoof, Reincarnation equipment of course, ability tiers, Earth Stomp, Uppercut, Endurance Aura, Endurance Aura being the worst one. But typically when you play Cairn, you are going to play Endurance Aura with your Cairn. If you're in a position where you do Stomp first, you're going to be in a position where your Cairn is not going to die. You're going to be able to get that Endurance Aura off anyway next, or sometimes you bring Cairn and you immediately use the Endurance Aura. So I'd wager to guess that every single sample that has Cairn Bloodhoof in it has used Endurance Aura, so Endurance Aura is like just the basic Cairn win rate. Whereas if you're in a position good enough to actually use Earth Stomp as well, then you're even better off. Then we have Ragnaros with Sulphurous Meteor at the top, King Crush, Flaming Claw, Apex Predatoria. Pretty much makes sense. So according to the current data from Blizzard, these are the 15 best mercenaries. Are these absolutely the 15 best mercenaries? Well, what kind of parties can you build out of these? What kind of parties could you build with something else than these? One of the things about mercenaries is that the game is very grindy. And that means that the vast majority of players are not able to experiment a lot with their comps yet. I think there is still a lot of potential for meta development in the mercenaries, but that requires for players to grind a lot more so that they can get all of the mercenaries into good shape, so that they can really start to build a wide variety of comps. Anyway, for now, according to Blizzard's data, these are the top 15 mercenaries. And I hope that this brief analysis gave you a bit more insight into what you can and what you cannot read from a table like this. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and check out my Twitch channel.